Hello and welcome to another episode of Northside NOW. This is the podcast where we take you on a tour through all of the ministries and the latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. My name is Patrick, and with me as always are my co-hosts, Glenn Miller and Kevin Bryant. What's happening?
Hello.
Oh, he's back.
Hey!
He really wasn't on a rocket. That's good.
I'm glad I wasn't on that particular
that would
rocket.
have been bad.
We recorded that before it blew up. So we were like, oh.
It's like you were saying you hoped I was on the rocket. I'm like, did they really not like me or what?
It was funny because after Patrick go, oh, we might need to, and then Kevin edited it. So
No, but
that was funny though.
I really enjoyed watching that launch. I felt like it was a page out of history. You know, when we look back on the Saturn V launch from years ago, I think this will kind of be the similar thing, although it'll probably be more momentous when it actually succeeds. But in terms of the SpaceX program, it was a successful launch, meaning it made it past the launch pad, and it had, a 4-minute flight, something like that.
I enjoyed watching the cars get destroyed that parked too close to the launch
Did you
pad.
see the video where the concrete was splashing in the ocean?
Oh, no.
There's one view from that drone view from up above.
Uh-huh.
If you look at it all the way on the right-hand side, you'll see splashes in the ocean. And what they're saying that was debris from the launch pad that had been shot out pretty much like a cannon out of that area. So that's the strength of that.
Well, that's what I want. There was a car that parked too close to the launch pad, and so when it went, like a giant chunk of concrete came and just like demolished this car.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I think all launches register on the Richter scale. So this one was like ridiculous what it registered.
Yeah, I think the big thing is going to be, from what I've read and seen, how they satisfy the FAA requirements. Because, of course, they have to be certified for every launch. Any launch that's going to be launched from anywhere has to be certified by the FAA that it's got the right safety precautions, all the trajectories and everything are outside of damage to people where people are. And so that's going to be a big hurdle to climb, because even outside of what they call the blast radius, there was some damage from stuff breaking windows and various different things because of all the debris that was kicked up and, all that stuff. So that's the normal part of flying rockets. You have to always do that. But this one, being the biggest rocket ever made, carries with it a lot more weight. So I'm confident that it will happen. It's just a matter of when.
I wonder if you live close to those launch pads, if you can get like rocket insurance.
I don't know. In that particular area, you have to have flood insurance and everything else.
Earthquake insurance.
Hurricane insurance. I don't know.
Does a rocket qualify to be insured? I don't know. But it was fun to watch on from a distance from wherever I was.
I like the SpaceX mindset of, we blew it up, but it was really successful.
Yeah.
I mean, where else is that applicable in life?
Well, if you...
I messed that up, but it was a successful time.
If you're an engineer, you're familiar with the agile model.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's all about, is that you fail early and fail often. You get your best results from a failure better than from a success.
Oh, yeah.
Because if things are successful, some of it could be accidental. You might not know exactly why it succeeds, but when you fail, and as long as you've collected enough data to help you understand what the source of the failure was, you know what to not do next time.
Yeah.
It's like inventing the light bulb. There are 1,000 ways that Edison learned how not to make a light bulb before he made the successful bulb. So I think that's fascinating, because we've grown up in this space race where it's all been a NASA model, where it's a governmental funded agency, and the criteria about how you build things and the safety requirements and everything else were just a total different mindset. Yeah. It's not that people in the 60s didn't have the ideas.
Yeah.
It's that they weren't allowed to do those, or that just wasn't the time and the way that things were done back then. So it's a fascinating time to be alive, and I'm really interested to see what happens.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. One of the things I've been doing lately is listening to a bunch of Christian music. And I got a question for y'all. And the reason I've been listening to it is because this time of the year, you start getting a lot of, if there's going to be a Christian festival, if Six Flags is going to have Christian people, they start seeing all these flyers and stuff in youth ministry. It's one of those things. So I kind of went back, started listening to some old Christian music. to be true and honest, I don't listen to Christian music all the time because, quite honestly, some of it gets on my nerves.
You heathen.
Heathen. But so I listen to all kinds of music. But I've been listening to like some of the older, like 90s stuff like that. So who was your not praise and worship leader, but who was some of y'all's favorite, or is some of your favorite Christian artists?
DC Talk, hands down.
Yeah.
I owned every DC Talk CD.
Okay.
Do you still like them that they're all split up and doing their own careers?
Less so. There was something magic about the
Better
three of them
together.
together. Yeah. I mean, they're all still good, and I still have a soft spot in my heart for each of them. But I don't know. Michael Tate is fronting Newsboys now,
Right.
and it's like, but for me, growing up, Newsboys is Peter Furler.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
So I don't know. It's just not the same.
So you get up every morning just, singing a little Jesus Freak.
Oh yeah.
So of those three guys, though, who do you follow the most now, or appreciate the most now musically?
Appreciate musically, honestly, probably Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
Okay.
I knew that was coming.
Well, Michael Tate, he's fronting Newsboys,
Right.
and so they're doing more, I guess, mainstream contemporary Christian music. Toby Mac is still doing a lot. I probably listen to Toby Mac more.
Yeah.
But he's doing a lot more with some of the Christian rappers and
Right.
more in that
He's
scene.
been the biggest name.
He's been the
out of
biggest
three.
name
Yeah.
for sure.
Correct.
But then Kevin Smith has kind of been flying under the radar a little bit. His stuff's a little bit more experimental and sort of artistic, and it's not really the mainstream stuff, which kind of appeals to me.
Yeah.
But
I think he is more of a musician than
he
the
is
others
a
are
little bit.
too. So
Plus, he's got such a distinctive voice. Like he can
Exactly.
sing on anything, and you know it's him immediately. So
Well,
I don't know.
I probably am more a Toby Mac fan,
yeah,
just from the style that he does.
yeah.
I never listened to, this is going to sound odd, I didn't really listen to Christian music until I was an adult.
yeah,
I guess nobody in my family really picked up on that too much, I guess. It's interesting that I think about this now. I mean, I think the folks that I knew of at the time were Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith, Stephen Curtis Chapman, probably a little bit. But even then, I didn't know about a lot of that until they hit sort of the adult contemporary.
yeah. That starts swapping over a little bit. Yeah.
So when Michael W. Smith had his stuff, and then of course Amy Grant had her kind of all pop album back in the 90s, I guess,
Yeah, it was
late
90s.
90s. It's sort of when I picked up on that and then dug back into a little bit of that. I mean, growing up, the Christian music that I knew was either the Gaithers or Southern Gospel somehow, probably. And I listened to that and I enjoyed it, but I probably listened to more popular music in general, picking up on my parents' impact from the 60s, and classic R&B and stuff there. It's probably what I listened to the most.
Well, I heard a lot of the Gaithers and stuff growing up too, just because of my parents and
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
But growing up in my family's household, we were not allowed to listen to secular music when we were little.
Okay.
So we could only listen to Christian music. So we'd go to Limestone at the mall, and my mom would let us all each pick out a CD.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, DC Talk was my jam, but I also like Newsboys. Jars of Clay was a big one for
Right.
me. Listened to a lot of Jars of Clay, especially that first album that has Flood on it. Yeah.
Liquid.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, for a while we were only allowed to listen to Christian music. So it wasn't until I was probably 13 or 14 that a friend of mine brought me a burned CD that had like Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and some Metallica on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? And it all went downhill from there. But
And you definitely probably had the harder rock influence. But did you get into the Striper and stuff like that at all?
I never did.
No?
Petra.
Or Petra.
Petra, yeah.
I mean, I learned about them a little later on,
Right.
but I wasn't as familiar with the hard rock Christian music.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, until you were older, then I know because we would go to Ixie some, and y'all
yeah.
would go to some of those backstage areas, the tents, and y'all would get up there and do the mosh pits to Christian
Oh yeah,
music
so
and stuff.
there's always like the one tent at Ichthus
The
that had like the
hardcore.
hardcore groups, but those were more like screamo
Screamer,
bands,
yeah.
like Norma Jean and
Yeah, Skillet. and
yeah.
some-
But Striper especially is more like 80s hair metal.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's yeah, good stuff.
Now, I wonder, could you come back and have that kind of, because now pretty much it's a lot of Christian music is wrapped around more praise and worship stuff
Yeah.
and everything.
Well, I blame Chris Tomlin.
Well, I mean, that's,
It wasn't all Chris Tomlin. I mean, Hillsong and all this. The trend became when Because when I was listening to some of these bands like DC Talk, Newsboys, Jars of Clay, they were writing Christian music, but it wasn't meant to necessarily be sung in church.
Worship, yeah.
And now the idea for Christian artists is to write a song that will be sung in churches. And so everything has shifted to this sort of more praise and worship side of things.
Approach, yeah.
Because there used to be a time when I was younger, even too, you're talking about like the hardcore bands where secular hardcore bands were taking their lead from the Christian hardcore bands, where they were like really leading that genre. And there was a lot more, I felt, creativity and in the Christian music world that I don't see as much because everything's trying to be so generic and praise and worshipy to be able to be sung in churches everywhere. So I don't know. I feel like we've lost a little bit of something in the Christian music world.
I think that as Christian music has become more financially sustainable, maybe is the word.
Yeah.
And I think some of that's because of how a lot of it's been shaped to be more financially viable. I'm not in that world, so I can't really speak for them at all. But it seems to me that there has been a growth of Christian music in all kinds of popular genres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it be the rap style or the metal style and lots of different things. Christian music, I felt like early on used to be more like the Michael W. Smith.
Yeah.
I don't know if the softer is the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, just poppy, I think.
Right.
More pop.
But there's so much now that can appeal to a lot more people. In a way, that's good.
Yeah.
For sure, because the message is still there. But it's become more mainstream in a way, and
in a
sometimes
way, yeah.
that feels less spiritual.
Well, I talked about, how like secular hardcore bands were taking their lead from the Christian hardcore bands, and you don't really see that anywhere else. Like the rap genre right now in Christian music is doing some pretty innovative things, and some secular artists are taking their lead. But for the most part, I feel like the Christian music scene is kind of always a little bit behind the secular music scene.
Yep.
And they're not really kind of forging the way anymore. Like I feel like they used to a little bit more. But
Well, there was a time, in Nashville.
when I say used to, I'm talking about like mid '90s, early 2000s when I was.
And that's what I'm about to say, that that time frame, country music kind of changed a little bit, kind of took almost like a break.
Yeah.
And the Christian music scene pretty well took over Nashville at that time. They were the ones that were up and down Broadway and all that stuff in all the recording studios a lot.
Yeah.
When Sparrow Records just blew up and went crazy and all that. And then, they were doing Rocket Town with Michael W. Smith and all that. So now that pendulum swooped back the other way, and country music's regained their town. But so I don't know. I've just been listening to more of it lately, and just kind of was reminiscing back to the old Christian music days.
Yeah.
And I actually got asked not long ago about the festivals we used to have here, Manifest and
Nexus,
and there was another one started with S. I can't remember. Soul something. I don't remember. Back there at
behind Casey Jones. Yeah, I remember those.
Those were fun. It was pretty
I don't
good.
think I ever did that.
Is the rumor true that I'm hearing that Ichthus is coming back?
Ichthus is coming back. I believe it's September this year. And they are back with Asbury now. Those people who originally had Ichthus now own it again. There's an interesting story. Part of that comes from the revival thing that happened in in Asbury. Yeah. And in that process, they were giving back the rights to Ichthus. Actually, there's Ichthus and there's Ichthus Music Festival. So I think it's Ichthus Music Festival, which was the traditional one we always went to.
Are we taking the group again?
That would be fun.
Well, if we need any adult chaperones, that
would be fun.
You put me on the list.
Why take kids? Why don't we just take adults?
I'm cool with that too. So these kids won't appreciate.
They'll be in school in September.
That's true.
I've never been, so for those who have not been, explain what this is. Is this like Bonnaroo for Christians?
Basically. Yeah.
Woodstock.
Yeah, it's a music festival, but it's all Christian bands and
everybody wears
outdoors.
Clothes.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
and stay in
for the most part,
you stay in tents.
There's usually a tornado or two
and snow.
So we could tell this story. It used to be in April, and it was the weather was always crazy.
Yeah,
and there was one year we went down there and. Yeah, I think it had been raining. It was like super muddy.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to even get there. And then like tornadoes came through one night and they had to I was a little upset because Reliant K came on,
Yeah.
and they played one song, and then they had to shut the show down because tornadoes. And so we were like in the tents, and the tornadoes were coming through. We're like holding the tents down to the ground, like we were
big circus tents.
like one of these big circus tents, and people are getting like lifted off the ground because of the wind. Yeah, it was pretty rough. I don't know how we survived. And then we woke up the next morning and we went out, and there was snow on the ground.
It's snowing.
It's like, what is happening? And people like, nobody dressed for snow weather. Nobody brought clothes for the snow. We were going to a music festival.
We turned like everybody and go, we're going home.
So we left a little early that year, but
well, so did everybody. They pretty well canceled it out from that point. But yeah, I was there when there was more than one tornado. I've been there tornadoes twice, I think. And
wow.
Yeah, it's a music festival. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really is a lot of fun. The great thing was you'd pay this not very much fee. I mean, $20, whatever. And you were there for the entire weekend, and they brought through all the big names of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would bring through people that were kind of moving up. I mean, Chris Tomlin was even there.
Yeah, Chris Tomlin. I mean, I saw Reliant K, I saw Skillet, I saw, a bunch of these
Casting Crowns, David Crowder. I mean, just keep going through the list. Matt,
when's the last time
Matt Redman
was there. Actually, he's really good. He's under Jeremy Camp. You keep going.
When's the last time we took a group take these?
That'd have been probably 14, probably like 2013 ish, something like that.
Well, it's been
10 years ago.
It's about time to bring it back, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. If you listen to Christian music out there and you're really on it, give us a holler either on our socials or send it in. Who do you listen to? Who's your favorite? What's the ones that you're all like jazzed about? You're like, they're coming in town. I go see their concert or something. Yeah. When they were doing, was it Barn Fest out at Snyder Barn for a few years? That was fun because they're bringing in like for King and Country and Crowder and some other folks that were bringing in. That was fun for a couple of years, but it's a lot of work to put on those festivals and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I've just been thinking a lot about Christian music lately. I've been listening to some of the old, and I think there's a beginning to be a little bit of a turn from what I understand in Christian music where they're moving away from some of these people doing all the praise and worshipy stuff and
I mean
a little more of like life type or whatever.
And not everybody does that. There are still people out there that aren't. It's not the more prevalent thing in the Christian music world. Like there's a singer-songwriter I really like in the Christian music world. His name's Andrew Peterson. Check him out if you don't like him.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about whenever I hear people writing more praise and worship music, I feel like they're just trying to get their song played in church. And I'm like, I don't know. It's hard for me to take it. It doesn't seem as genuine to me. And I don't know if that's just probably says something more about me than it does about them. But sometimes it's hard for me to get into, I don't know, a lot of these groups that just do praise and worship music because part of me feels like you're just turning out one after the other and it just feels like you're just trying to get that one hit that lasts in church for a while so that, I don't know, you can get paid. But
well, there's a general trend in music, especially on the secular side. There's a particular YouTube person that I follow that is a very good musician and talks a lot about this, but basically that the new songs really are just not songs.
Yeah.
They may be a few chords repeated over and over and over. There's really not a song structure.
Yeah. And maybe that's what is not appealing to me.
And that's what I see for my critique for those kinds of things. And maybe I'm being overcritical, so I'm not saying there's not value.
You don't have to do a praise chorus longer than Hotel California.
Well, and the chorus is repeated 10 times.
34 bridges. Let's go.
Exactly.
So
like I follow a couple of different Christian TikTok channels, and one of them is kind of a parody account, and he like kind of makes fun of some of this stuff, and he's like talking to his worship band, and he's like, "All right, the order is going to be we're going to do verse, chorus.
I think I saw
verse,
this
chorus, chorus, bridge, 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 bridge." Chorus, 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 chorus. And it's just like, that's the joke is that we have to repeat it 100 times. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like you have to repeat it until we get spiritual enough.
Exactly.
So the first 5 times you don't really get there. And then the next 5 is when you really feel it.
Some people just need a little more time to get there than others.
And there's something to that. There's, the monks and their chants.
Oh, like
drones and those kinds of things. That is a thing. It's not that you're being put in a trance, but there's something about that repetitive nature of that does something physical to you, and I get that. But I don't really connect with that kind of music.
I don't either
as much. I want to hear a story. I'm a sucker for a story.
ballad.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily a ballad, but just a story, something that starts out one place and ends somewhere else. And that connects with me more than some of the other. And for other people, it might be something different. But I appreciate a good storyteller and a singer and a songwriter. And there's some really good ones out there, but that's what connects with me the most.
Yeah. Well, all of this is before the AIs take over.
That's true. We're going to have AI generated songs coming.
Well, that's a big thing in Christian music. They say that it actually will probably happen in Christian music before other deals. But then they just did that crazy song with the voice of Rihanna, a computerized voice of Rihanna.
I haven't heard about that.
Redid someone else's song, and you couldn't tell who it was.
You generate your text, but then you can have different voices because they've trained AI models on all of these like celebrity voices because they have a ton of recording data to use.
Right.
And so you can pretty well imitate any celebrity out there.
Which further leads to the mistrust of anything out there. We were talking about this before we went on air about general pessimism and mistrust. And I think that's one of the negatives that could come from AI is that I just don't know how much we can trust about what's real unless we see it with our own eyes.
Yeah.
Face to face. And we talked about this, Patrick, about lots of different things in our culture right now. Maybe because of the pandemic, or maybe the timing was just coincidental, but with the advent of online therapy and definitely online medical assistance and things, telehealth, there's a difference. You're not in the physical space with the person.
Yeah.
And the way you treat as a medical professional and the way you are treated as a patient is different. And so when you're not in the same space with a physical person, there's no doubt that there's chemical and electrical energy that impacts that interaction, right?
Oh, yeah,
I think
sure.
that's pretty much proven now. When you don't have the same environment, things are different.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, but it's definitely different. And how's that going to impact us moving forward? How has it already impacted us moving forward? I think, Glenn, you mentioned a little bit that we know just from folks that we know and their practices and things that needing mental health services is a bigger need now than before the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be sort of self-evident, but that is a real thing.
Oh, yeah, it's completely real. Try to book a therapy session or something. I mean, some of these people are like months and months and months out. And talking with some of them, they're saying, we still don't know how big of an impact this has had on all of us. It's going to be a long while.
And don't get me wrong, getting help, whether it's online or not, is probably better than not getting help.
Oh, definitely.
Right? Oh, for sure.
But if you can do it in person, I think there's an added benefit there, a relationship you can develop that's got some more characteristics than just an online situation.
Plus, it does people good to talk to people face to face.
Are you sure?
I think so. I'm pretty sure that's backed up by science.
You're probably right.
And who knew that Milli Vanilli would have been ahead of their time?
Oh, no. You know how mad they must be right now?
They were like, we could have had a career and nobody would have ever questioned anything we did.
What were their names again? Rob.
It was Milli and Vanilli.
Chaz.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Rob and Chaz, I think.
Yeah. I can't even remember their last
names. It's like everybody lip syncs to everything. And I bet they're just so mad right now.
They were mad when it happened.
Speaking of the festival that used to be out at Casey Jones, I got caught one time. There was a Jump 5 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
We were watching it, and I said, they have to be lip syncing. It was a bunch of young people. I said,
Take 5?
No, I'm pretty sure it was
Jump 5, yeah.
Jump 5.
And, there was a bunch of young people, college age type students, and they were like, I was like, there's just no way they can be that in shape and singing that level.
Right.
Well, little did I know that the little blonde in the middle that was one of the lead singers and jumping the most was her mom right behind me. And he goes, I will have you know. And I was like, whoops.
Be careful what you say.
You never know who's listening. Mom.
I think that every time I see an artist like that's really doing heavy choreography while they're singing, I'm like, there's no way you're doing that and singing at the same time without sounding out of breath.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. Do you really want to hear all that?
No.
No.
Like if you're listening to NSYNC, that's the only one I'm thinking about. Hey, bye.
Oh, I know.
You don't want to hear that.
I don't want to hear it. I'm okay. We just need to stop pretending that they're actually singing and dancing.
Do they do it on Broadway though? Don't they?
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's probably a technique to learning how to do all that.
It's probably just be in shape because
they practice it to nauseum.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and I think everybody knows. Maybe everybody doesn't. There's tuning that happens in live shows.
Oh, yeah. Everything's processed.
So
there's a new app whipping around pretty hardcore on the socials right now. It shows you singing your voice, then you could auto-tune it.
Yeah.
Yourself now, which you've been able to do some with GarageBand, but now they're like everything else. They're making it easier. And now you can sound so amazing.
Yeah.
Even you.
But there are definitely some professional
American
tools
Idol.
that they use in like bigger shows.
Oh, yeah. I know somebody who that's their job. They run the computer program for the vocals, and there's like 3 people that do this. One's vocals, one's instruments, and the other's kind of production-y side of it. But that's all they do is the computer side of it. They don't run the actual sound and lights.
They're just running plugins.
All that through the computers, the systems that they have.
Right.
So it sounds good the way we like it.
the larger churches do that too.
Yeah.
Larger churches with more resources have more standard equipment, from big line arrays and speaker systems to all the processing.
Imagine, auto-tuning a praise band at church. I'm sure people do it.
Oh, it happens. Yeah. Sometimes I wish we had that here.
If I'm up there, that might happen. But yeah, it puts a different spin on, what's real, what matters, and I don't know how much importance we put in various things.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So it's an interesting time to be alive because all of that seems like it's changing. Patrick, you were talking about somebody listened to recently about this generation, whatever that necessarily, however you define it, sort of breaking all the rules. It's different than all the patterns that we've seen, right? It's new.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exciting and scary.
Sure. Yeah. It's a little bit of both or a whole lot of both. And, I guess all those are tools that we use to reach people for Jesus. And, you do different things, like the group that we started, Men of Valor, that still meets on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, a group of guys that get together and share each other's lives and work out together. And they support each other in all kinds of ways now, not just physically. But Patrick's about to start something, a Bible study that is going to revolve around things that people tend to really be passionate about and have in common as well. And so, Patrick, what are you about to do?
It has very little to do with Men of Valor. We're not going to be running around.
But it's the same concept.
Yeah, starting on May 10th, that Wednesday, I'm going to do it Wednesday night Bible study, kind of that our normal Wednesday night Bible study time at 6:30. My working title right now is The Digital Disciple.
The Digital Disciple.
Only because Daphne didn't really like the term nerd Bible study.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about, kind of all things nerd.
On the guitar.
We'll do lessons based off of, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and I'll probably tend to focus on movies and video games, and
yeah.
So are you going to tell me the Holy Spirit is the Force?
No, but I mean,
oh, okay. I just wanted to know.
It's all analogy.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to start that on May 10th, 6:30, Wednesday night.
Actually, I'm really excited about that. Yeah. We've talked about that some. Because some people just talk in different, they just live in different ways. And it's not a bad thing. It's just everybody has their thing, right? And I think a lot of times people that are more scientific and more fantasy, they enjoy that genre that speaks to them. I feel like sometimes they feel like the church kind of wants to rebuke them for listening and watching and being a part of the stuff they do. I remember when I grew up in the heyday of when Dungeons and Dragons started.
Right.
And
we may talk about some of that too.
We drew out on graph paper. I mean, if your mom would buy you graph paper, you were just like, oh, it's the greatest thing on the planet, Mom, thanks. But you draw your own math stuff. And then, I remember magic cards and things like that came through in youth ministry. When Harry Potter started, y'all, and you were in youth ministry, there were more mamas kicking in youth pastors' doors than there was anything else. My kid's doing this. No, that's just what they're interested in. Mom, you liked Snow White, right? And why did you like Snow White and a 6-foot mouse down in Florida? But, you liked all that stuff too. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's how life speaks to us. We talked about music. Music speaks to a lot of people. They gain life, their relationship with Jesus. It's the same. Some people it's sports. Some people it's everything, So I'm excited about this because I think it'll be really exciting. Get a group of people together that builds community, and we've talked a lot about community this spring. So I'm glad we're doing this.
I think that's the thing to remember. We talked about maybe the new generation or the time we live in is scary and exciting, and still remember connection is where it's at.
Yeah,
connecting with people, getting to know them, barbecuing first. We've said forever, and then having those conversations about God. about Jesus, about our faith, about how that informs us and affects us and drives us, and not being afraid to question and to dive in together, hand in hand, into the situations we deal with each and every day. When I think about the first century church, I think about them working together, number one, but also dealing with things that they had to deal with. Yeah. The politics of the time, the cultural practices of the time, dealing with that head on. That's a lot of what Paul's letters are all about is, I see you doing this thing. Here's why it's not quite where we need to be. Let's make some changes and go forward together and serve people. And so if we ever get to the point where whatever we're doing is excluding people, I think that's something we need to be at least thinking about.
Yeah.
Why is that? Or is that helping us have those discussions about Christ or not?
And Jesus used this very same format in his teaching, his telling parables. If you read Luke 9:62, which says, if you put your hand to the plow and look back, you're not fit for the kingdom of heaven. Well, if I go out here and I hook a plow to my digitalized John Deere tractor with GPS, I can look back all day long. That doesn't mean anything to me, right? But when you're living back in that time and you had a plow and you had an ox or a mule or whatever it was pulling it and you're hanging on the reins, that's a lot of hard work. You're trying to keep your body stable. You're trying to walk in these clods that the ground that's being furrowed is creating. And if you look back, you're going down.
Right.
You're going to be drugged.
Or at least, you're going to turn or you're going to move off straight. Line. Yeah.
So people don't understand that. So basically, if there's a storyline within a superhero movie or within whatever, then that makes more sense. That's the parable for my day.
Yeah.
So, if you put your hand to, if you start binge watching something, which is so popular to do for young people and people of all ages now, and you decide you got to leave or whatever, it's going to mess you up. So, yeah, I don't know that's not really the best one, but but something along the same lines. It's the same thing that Jesus did then. He used what the people knew, what they enjoyed doing, what they knew they had to do, and he made the kingdom of God real for their life. And I think we need to do that because, like you said, Kevin, we can't really relate with people and we don't want to even try to relate. No, you must come sit and listen to my kind of music and my kind of worship in that pew there and don't get anybody else's. God did not create religion, or God didn't create religion, but God did not create us to follow such a rigid puppet kind of life. We have choice and we have things, and that's our job as the church, is to bring the church into life. I'm excited, Patrick. Get after it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I'm just mad I can't go all the time.
Well, I'm only committing for the summer right now, so depending on how it goes, when we get closer to school starting back and we've got some momentum and we want to keep going, we'll keep going, but I'm only committing for the summer.
That's good.
When I first started youth ministry here, I'd say I'd only did it for 6 weeks or 6 months, and boom, here I am. Well, Mother Teresa said that, I'm only committing for the summer.
I'm only committing for the summer. This is a limited time offer. And we'll see you next fall, dude.
Right.
So, get in touch with Patrick if you're interested, because he can give you all the details and where and when and all that.
Yeah, come on.
Get after it.
Yeah, no age restriction or anything like that. I'm cool with whatever. Let's talk.
Just to be safe, may the force be with you.
Yes. And also with you. Let us pray.
Well, anything else going on besides your Bible study?
Well, as you know, May 7th is approaching rapidly, and it's going to be a big day for us. Graduation Sunday, so all the graduates are going to be hanging out that morning. We've got our new Sunday schedule, 9 o'clock in the sanctuary, 10 o'clock Sunday school, 11 o'clock in Hope Hall. That's a big one. And then we've got our potluck that night, so that's a full day. There's a lot going on. And then the next week, May 14th, that's Mother's Day. So
you've been warned.
We're getting closer. We've been telling y'all for a few weeks now that it's coming. This is on you.
No excuses.
Yeah. And then we've got a couple of save the dates coming up later on in the summer. For sure, we've got the musical that first weekend in June. So that's like the 2nd through the 4th.
Yeah.
And then the week of July 10th is going to be VBS this year. So make sure you go ahead and save those dates, put those on the calendar.
And that's like food truck affair.
Oh, I know. It's called Food Truck Party.
Yeah, that's it.
I think we're actually getting some food trucks. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this one.
I'm hoping the shaved ice people show up.
Yeah.
Saucy Jake's.
Have
you guys had that?
I've had their Philly cheesesteak egg rolls.
Yes, I've heard about this. I've not eaten it yet.
Did you see where their son
I did.
is now one of the properties? Is it the storefront or the actual truck?
I think it's the store.
Yeah.
17.
Yeah, he's taken over.
Yeah.
And
I did
running
see
it.
that.
That looks really cool.
And isn't it their daughter that's opened up?
She does peppermint patties.
Peppermint Addies down,
downtown.
Downtown.
Ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's candy store.
It's kind of candy and ice cream. Yeah.
Yeah, very entrepreneurial family.
But what a great thing to get your kids involved.
Oh, yeah.
At a young age doing that as well. Teach them a lot.
Totally.
That's cool.
If you haven't tried Saucy Jake's yet, go try Saucy Jake's.
I have to. I am one of those people.
Well, guys, thanks for podcasting with me. And thanks to all of you out there in the world for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. Go to our website, northsidejackson.com, or email us at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this is Patrick.
This is Glenn.
I'm Kevin.
And that's what's happening at Northside Now.
Bye-bye.